Values. There's that word again. Like inflation or loss of purchasing power, words and phrases we have heard endlessly. But do we really know what the word values means?
When people use the word values in society, I think generally they're talking about the definition of their culture. What is the predominant religious view? What is their view of justice? Every culture has its own little set of rules and regulations, the ethics of that culture. Many of them overlap, but you'd be surprised as you travel around the world how divergent some of those elements can be. For example, in the United States and in the Western world, the idea of monogamous marriage is just, it's a value. It's a very important value, but there are parts in the world where a man is entitled, in fact, an obligation to have more than one wife, especially if there's a woman that needs to be provided for. Her husband has died and she's on the street, to take her in as a second wife and so forth. And Americans are horrified at that idea because they're all tied up with this question of sexuality, and they don't realize that in other cultures it's got very little to do with sexuality at all. It has to do with family unit and supporting people in need and so forth. So each culture has its values. That's not to say that we're supposed to have the view that all cultures are equal. I think we're entitled to be biased in this sense. I think most of us, regardless of what culture we're in, we're entitled to think that our culture is the best. But in Western civilization, certainly in the United States, we have a set of values that has served us well and has created a great civilization.
So are values relative or are they absolute? The way this question is answered may determine how much war a nation will tolerate.
Are you saying? Yes. It's relative.
Well, whenever someone tells me that all values are relative, I always ask them, are you absolutely sure of that? I mean, if you don't start from some point, whether you're doing a scientific experiment or you're running a political system, this is the 0 point. This is the cross of the XYZ axis on the graph. You're lost. Now, it may be some of those points are arbitrary, it may be some of those points can't be proven, it may be some of those points really doesn't make a difference whether we pick this one or that one, but you better be sure of where you are before you take the next step.
It seems values have the ability to instill useful ideas into people. Ideas like borrowing money for consumption is wrong, balancing budgets is right, war is wrong. Why is this?
A true nation is a moral community. It shares things in value. It is an extended family. And if they do not share similar values and convictions about what is right and wrong and good and evil, and they're disagreed on these fundaments, it ceases to be a community. And if it's not a community, it's not going to be a real country. And in a crisis, it will come apart.
A great challenge is, why are people good and how are they good? I mean, if we can solve the problem of human virtue, we really solve the problem of statism, of a government itself. The government is intended to solve the problem of evil, fundamentally, and if you count fraud in that category, it's still the same sort of thing. The degree to which we can make people good of their own free choice, of their own free will, is the degree to which we need government less.